What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are going over the most passionate fan base in the National Hockey League. Yes, I can say that because the numbers say that the Montreal Canadiens fans are the most passionate. I'm sorry. Listen, even my Islanders fans out there, that is the truth. So, with that out of the way, we have to talk about Carey Price because I made a video last week and I didn't really cover as much as I wanted to. I didn't have the time to do the research. I wanted to get the video out for you guys. But I really want to talk about Carey Price and just like how sad of a story this really has become, because Carey Price has gone through the ringer. He's been in the NHL for a very long time. I think 13 or 14 seasons now. Lucky 13, it seems. But Carey Price, the franchise goaltender of the Montreal Canadiens, is probably closer to the end of his career than the beginning. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but will we ever see Carey Price on the ice again? So here's the context. We're going to go all the way back to the 2007 NHL season. He was in the AHL and won the Jack A. Butterfield Trophy, which, if you're not familiar, some of you guys maybe not, maybe in Montreal, you guys are more familiar. It's basically the goalie of the year in the American Hockey League. And Carey Price won that, and I believe it was with the Hamilton Bulldogs, right? That was when they were in the AHL before they moved to the OHL. And, that was something that was kind of the beginning of the rise of Carey Price. And obviously when he was drafted, there was some questions from certain individuals out there that will not be named, but very critical of the Habs taking Carey Price. And look what he's turned into. Really his most successful season was the 2015 seasons. He took the Montreal Canadiens, I think, to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years there. They lost to the Rangers. They had a couple of tough heartbreaks during that time. But that was his crowned season. That was his crown jewel in the NHL. He won the Hart Trophy, the William M. Jennings Trophy, the Vezina Trophy, and of course the Ted Lindsay Award. And what's kind of funny but not funny about that is that's the only time that Carey Price ever won the Vezina Trophy. Kind of weird, right? For what we would consider the best goalie in this era or the best goalie in this generation, he's only won the Vezina once. Not to mention, in the 2022 season, he won the Bill Masterton Trophy, and that is this season. For most, it's not really for on-ice accolades. It's more about his coming back to the game and his, more resiliency of character award, more so than what you actually produce on the ice. And, this is tough to watch because you look at Carey's numbers, it's tough to watch. His career average numbers, he has a .917 save percentage and a .251 goals against average over his career. The last time he got those numbers around that total was the 2018-2019 season, which is now coming on 4 years ago. Since then, in the 2019-2020 season, which we all talk about him dragging the Habs to the Stanley Cup final in 2020, actually, was that 20? Yeah, no, it was 2021. Excuse me. In 2020, they beat Pittsburgh in the wild card round, right? The round robin. He still had a .909 save percentage, which is it's good, but it's not great. It's not Carey Price numbers. And then you consider in 2020, 2021, where he did take them to the Stanley Cup final, where they lost to the Lightning, he had a .901 save percentage with a 2.64 goals against average. So again, below his average levels. And then obviously you get to the 5 games this year, and that's just atrocious. An .878 save percentage and a 3.63 goals against average, which is the highest ever in his career. Again, very small sample size. I understand that. It's a 5 games after multiple knee surgeries. I get that, but that is the stats for Carey Price. And the last time he was really the Carey Price that we know with a 923 save percentage and a 2.23 goals against average was the 2016-2017 season, where for a couple of years he was in his prime. In 2011, he put up a 923 save percentage. 2012, a 916. He had a down season in 2013, only a 905 save percentage, a 927, a 933, a 934, and like I said, the 2016-17 season was his last Carey Price season where he put up a 923 save percentage. So it's been a struggle for Carey, and it's, like I said, it's tough to watch for a goaltender that in my generation growing up, that was the guy. Carey Price was the best goaltender in the world. And unfortunately, Carey Price, I hate to say it, is going to kind of fall into the same category as Henrik Lundqvist. A goaltender that was one of the best in his generation, carried them to the Stanley Cup Final and the Eastern Conference Finals a couple of times, had some good playoff runs, but never got that final closure, which is, of course, winning the Stanley Cup. And that's tough because you look at a goalie like that, and this comes back to the argument that a lot of great goaltenders that get paid good money tend to weigh down the rest of the salary or the allocation of money to the rest of the team. And we saw that with the Rangers too, right? That was a Rangers team that was led by Henrik Lundqvist. That was the star with, the guy that was on the window glass along with some of the great Knicks. It was Henrik Lundqvist. They didn't have that star player, right? They had Rick Nash, they had Dubinsky and McDonough and some good players. I'm sorry I brought up McDonough, but you get what I'm saying, right? And the Habs kind of had that same sort of thing as well. They never had that identity guy, right? Yes, they had they had Pacioretty, they had Gallagher, and that was sort of a culture of a team, but they didn't have that. Of course, generational talent, but they didn't have a John Beliveau. They didn't have that guy that was the difference. They didn't have a Rocket Richard. They didn't have that guy that would complement Carey Price because, let's be honest, Carey Price, for as good as he wasn't scoring 50-plus goal seasons for the Habs. Not that I remember. He did score some goals, but it wasn't a regular occurrence for him. So, when I look at it in that sense, Carey Price just didn't have the team around him, and it kind of brings up the debate, well, what's the future for Carey Price? Is he going to play in the National Hockey League again? And to be honest, I don't think he will. And I say that in as nice a way as I can. I think he's dealt with a lot of things with all these, the prescription drugs and just mentally, and he's got kids and a wife and everything else. Like, there was a lot of outside noise for Carey, and I just don't know if he's been able to overcome that. Now, I'd like to sit here and say that, listen, if Carey Price proves me wrong and has the comeback story in 2023-2024 season, opening night at the Bell Center with the fans applauding him for returning after basically a 2-year absence, I'd be thrilled. I'd be so happy for him. But at this point, it's hard to say that he's ever going to play again. And you consider unfortunately, there is a lasting effect on this Bergevin contract. He still has 4 years left, $31.25 million left to be paid out. He's still getting some decent compensation from the Habs in what we're arguing could be the potential retirement of a guy at this point. Now, here's an interesting stat line. In the 2018-2019 season, Carey Price played 66 games that season. Now, if it's true that he doesn't play this season, between 2020, 2021, and 2023 combined, Carey Price will play half that number of games that he played in one season over a 3-year span and a 3-season span. He will play 31 games played as a member of the Montreal Canadiens and 1 game in Laval with the Laval Rocket. Just an interesting stat to kind of throw at you at the end of today's video. 66 games in one season, 31 games over potentially 3 or 4 seasons, just a few years after that. Very tough to see. I hope there's a comeback story to this. But let me know what you guys think. In the comment section down below, what do you guys think of Carey Price and potentially returning to the Habs? Because I just don't really see it right now. And I hope he proves me wrong. But what do you guys think the lasting effects on this is? Because he is getting paid it's a $10.5 million cap hit that is going on LTIR for the Habs this season, which does free them up of salary. But Jeff Molson is still paying that money to Carey Price, despite not being on the ice this season. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.